Welcome to In Case of Ceasefire Sabotage, Break Glass. Assalamu alaikum. I'm joined by my co-host, Walaa Katoue. How are you doing?
Walaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. As good as always. How are you, Ahmed?
Alhamdulillah, very good. It's been, as you know, a very hectic and crazy week, as always. We've talked about this before, but there is so much to get through that
Yeah.
you really have to pick and choose and touch on things, even though the whole point of the podcast was to dive in deeper, and we will do some of that, of course, but there's no lack of information that needs to go around.
The Hasbara machine is grinding as hard as always. They're spread quite thin. You're fighting how many, 7, 8 fronts right now in this existential threat to your existence. So they're just going balls to the wall. They've got Hasbara out on Iran, Lebanon, Gaza, Turkey, Syria, the United States, the ceasefire. What else? There's got to be more.
UN, ICJ, ICC,
Right? The Muslims in America, the Muslims in Europe, the Muslims in Canada, South America, South Africa. They're just
Muslims in general.
they're spread very, very thin. They're working extra hard with that $700+ million that they budgeted.
I mean, I would like to talk about other things as well. There are some good stories, positive stories, even some more anti-imperialism stories, anti-capitalism stories. But unfortunately, we have to keep our focus on this. And I think people often ask, why is Israel and the genocide in Gaza the focus of a lot of what people are talking about? And you see this asked a lot online. And the answer is this is the principal issue of our time. There's a genocide unfolding, and the entire Western power structure is supporting, enabling it, and participating in this. And this is why we've continued to harp on this, bring attention to this, and do our work in order to bring this genocide to an end. And it's getting worse, not better, unfortunately.
Yeah, absolutely. I think we'll get into some stories about what is happening in Gaza and the West Bank to this day. The ceasefire, as it stands, is non-existent and is constantly being sabotaged. Hence, in case of ceasefire sabotage, break glass with us. So let's get into it, inshallah. We've got our little bit of a lighthearted story first before we get into the nitty-gritty of the ceasefire and some updates.
So, for those of you that have been following this story, it's just so funny because it's almost like a microcosm of how the US operates. And Trump is the worst version of that, but this is really how it is, right? The reflecting pool in the National Mall has turned green. Let's take a look at the timeline of events. They removed the filters in reflecting pool because Obama put them in. And I'm no fan of Obama, but this kind of just poking at it because it's Obama is funny. And then give your criminal neighbor who runs Green Water Services a $20 million no-bid contract to paint the pool. What could go wrong? Then fill the pool with water from the Potomac River and the phosphates from which cause algae blooms. There you go. You could see a freshly sealed pool and extreme heat result in super scum event. Direct National Park Service to dump hydrogen peroxide into the pool, which causes the paint to peel. Like, at no point, any of these steps, anybody's thought through what could possibly happen the next step moving forward. Like, just keep digging the hole. We know how we'll get out of this hole by digging our way out. Deploy U.S. National Guard to stop people from taking photos of the swamp as a perfect metaphor for the administration, but also, I would say, Washington in general. And then finally, blame someone else. I wonder who they blame. Was it immigrant?
100%. You know, it's funny because wasn't that what he ran on? Drain the swamp, right?
Yeah.
Now you have this like perfect depiction of the complete opposite of what's happening. And it must be a thorn in their side to be like, not only are we not draining our swamp, but now we actually have created an actual swamp that people can look at and point to as symbolic of what we're doing. It's no wonder the National Guard is there. Good job, boys.
You gave me a great, actually, like, I figured it out now.
Okay.
This was not an accident. For an administration that's most stacked with swamp monsters, they're harvesting their own swamp monsters here. They did this on purpose. They're just playing us for fools. Where do you think they're getting all these swamp
Potentially.
monsters from? They wanted one right there, easy access to create more swamp monsters.
Potentially, are they the swamp monsters? Maybe they just needed a place that felt like home.
At the end of the day, they go, they lay in theirs to get like that regeneration, swamp
Exactly.
power.
You know how people take mud baths?
That's what I'm saying.
They're
It's the
like,
same thing.
they're
Swamp
like,
baths. That's what they're doing.
give me energy. And it's there for them, bro.
Let's see what Fox has to say about this. Who can we
Caroline,
blame?
any more details on the 5 people that have been arrested regarding vandalism here?
The vandalism is very real, despite what Tim Walz wants to say. It's an imaginary problem. No, it is not. It's a very real problem. In fact, I spoke with the National Park Service just before joining the show. They now have 17 police reports that
Believe us, guys, it's very real.
have been filed in
I
just the
believe you,
matter of a few
Caroline.
days. There's actually been 6 arrests at the reflecting pool where, again, these deranged individuals, many of them longtime donors to the Democrat Party, to Barack
This is great for you, isn't it? They're Democrat donors, long time.
to Act Blue, that have been vandalizing and desecrating our federal monument, one of the most beautiful monuments in the world, the reflecting pool. And that's why President Trump is not going to stop with this effort. We're going to not only hold those people accountable, but we're going to fix.
They're just arresting random people. This is one of those areas that has so many cameras, so much police, so much surveillance. There is no way that this could happen like that. Where are the videos of people? How do you know how much fertilizer or whatever it is that they're saying they put in, they would need to put in order to actually get this sort of reaction? It's just so stupid. Like, on the face of it, unless somebody was like bringing in an immense amount of fertilizer or whatever to throw in, this can't
You would
happen
need
like that.
like dump trucks. Is that what you're saying?
Yes. It's not like you walk in with like a little pocket full of dirt
Like
and you throw
a
it in.
vial, and you're like drip, drip, and then it turns into like what we see before us.
Trump spent $14 million painting the Lincoln Memorial pool dark blue, but he didn't think that the dark paint would raise the temperature and cause algae. Now, to remove the algae, Trump came up with the idea of pouring hydrogen peroxide, but he didn't think that this chemical would strip away the paint he paid $14 million.
This is the perfect metaphor for how messed up every decision this government and the administration has made is. We go to fight Iran and spend how much money to close a strait, cause how many problems, only to now have to pay even more money to reopen the strait that was open whilst paying reparations for the damage that we did. This is the perfect metaphor. This is why they're like, fix it. And this is all their solutions are just stupid and make the problem even worse. Somebody should just hand them the shovels and be like, dig deeper, guys.
You know, the
Maybe you'll
sad
get to the
thing is,
center of the earth.
the sad thing is that nobody will be held accountable and people will actually get richer off this. So it benefits them both ways. That's the annoying part.
It benefits them in every way except for their image. And that's why they're having their little hissy fit and arresting people and preventing photographs. Because Trump is all about appearances. I saw this AI generated image. Trump was on a Sea-Doo and he was pulling into the Strait of Hormuz, and there's a couple Iranian guards, and as he's paying them the toll, he's like, "But I won the war, right?" And they're like, "Yes, Mr. Trump, sir, you won the war." And they're taking
It's
It's
so
all about
funny.
the appearances, right?
My podcast mention of The Simpsons, but when Mr. Burns joined the film festival and he was like riding the horse and like saving people and stuff, and it was like all an act, it's like the same thing, except they could do it with AI now.
Mhm.
But yeah, that's it on the pool. Just thought I would share that because one, it's funny, and two, disgusting, and three, I think we figured it out. This is our podcast break glass theory that they are using this swamp to either regenerate or to create more. A break glass theory. I don't know if you watch the theory channels. moving along to something a little bit more serious. Everybody's been talking about this latest MOU, the ceasefire sort of negotiations between Iran and the US. This is the document, just to have it on screen for people to see. But we've gone ahead and done the liberty of looking it up a little bit, just summarizing the main points of the agreement. For those that are following along, it is a 14-point framework, and it was signed by Donald Trump remotely and Masoud Pezeshkian. And basically, it says there's an immediate and permanent termination of military operations on all fronts, and they've explicitly included Lebanon, extending to all respective allies. The maritime blockade has lifted or will be lifted. The U.S. has 30 days to fully dismantle its naval blockade of Iranian ports. In exchange, Iran will ensure toll-free safe passage for commercial vessels through the Strait of Hormuz for 60 days while it clears naval mines. The massive economic relief of the U.S. Treasury has immediately issued waivers allowing Iran to resume exporting crude oil. The U.S. will unfreeze blocked Iranian assets and work with regional partners on a $300 billion reconstruction economic plan for Iran. And finally, and this is interesting because Iran reaffirms it will not develop nuclear weapons. And actually, this term was negotiated on because they wanted them to say affirms, and Iran refused and said, no, it has to be reaffirmed because we've been saying this from the very beginning. So why are you going to make it sound like we're just affirming it? So they actually used the word reaffirm, and it was a talking point for them to discuss. I have some thoughts a little bit about it, but anything from your end you wanted to highlight before we do that?
Other than the fact that this is completely ridiculous, unnecessary, and similar to the swamp pool, how do you manufacture problems and then scramble to find solutions to them? No, I'm good. You go ahead and do your commentary.
You know, one of the things that's funny is to see all these people freaking out about
Oh, God.
the idea of peace. This is one interesting thing. But the other one is Trump's like schizophrenia. I don't like using that word because people have real problems and it's often mischaracterized.
Yeah,
But
don't do
just
that,
this,
bro.
yeah, but like the idea of one day, 1 hour or 1 minute, he's thinking one thing, and the other minute, this guy. Like one
Yeah.
second he's
I
saying
think that I've heard it so many times now from people that Trump is the result of the last person he spoke to. And you hear something so often from analysts that you start to think, hey, maybe there is some truth to it. He's so egotistical that he is easily influenced, right?
Yeah, no, for sure. And this is something that the Quran talks about with hypocrites. In Surah An-Nisa, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, مذبذبين بين ذلك لا إلى هؤلاء ولا إلى هؤلاء ومن يضلل الله فلن تجد له سبيلا. So they're always wavering in between. They're not really on this side. They're not really on this side. They're just confused about life. And like you said, the last person we spoke to or which way the wind is blowing, they go with that. And the truth is, whoever God causes to go astray, they will not find the straight path. They will not get back to the righteous path. And again, this is mentioned, you know, hypocrisy is mentioned many times. يقولون بلسانهم ليس في قلوبهم. They say on their tongues what's not in their hearts. It's just whichever way the wind is blowing, whichever way life is taking you, that's the way they're gonna go. And is there a better example of that than Trump?
Yeah, because it's not like, principle driven, right? It's where do I see my benefit? Where do I see the favorability, like you said? Which camp right now is offering me the most or the best outcome? SubhanAllah, and this is the disease of hypocrisy.
So here we see on Fox News. They always do great work. This is why I always like to watch them.
Yeah.
This is on June 21st. Trump threatens to occupy Iran. President Trump tells Fox News. Let's listen to a little bit of this.
President Trump tells Fox News he spoke with Iranian officials overnight and said, you close it and you won't have a country. He went on to tell these officials, you won't even make it back to your effing country.
Apparently, he threatened the negotiators. And he's obviously threatening here to blow up the entire country or destroy the entire country.
Now, earlier today, Iran's President Masoud Pezeshkian said this about Iranian enrichment of uranium. The president's also reacting to that. Take a listen.
We will not give up our right to enrichment. And they, too, will be forced to accept it. You all know what the so-called President of the United States was saying. He had made a complete 100-degree turn. He was saying that Iran must surrender unconditionally. Iran has no right to do this. It has no right to do that.
This is Trump now and his positions. I'm sure that's not going to change at all. He has no other positions. He's firm on this. As long as they respect us, I don't want to use the word fear because it's inappropriate. Let's listen to...
mechanisms are, and are you in direct talks with the Supreme Leader?
Yeah, look, here's the thing. As long as they respect us, I don't want to use the word fear because that's an inappropriate word, but as long as they respect us, we're not going to have any trouble.
تخيل قلبه الappropriate أنا, as if he didn't just threaten to blow them to the Stone Ages. They're not going to have a country there. He's like, this is where I draw the line. The fear is an inappropriate. I'm an appropriate man. بقدرتي وقيمتي جاية. كشارة.
Straight.
So the mechanism is,
You know, we have a Navy that had a blockade.
those mechanisms are.
Well, they have total control of the strait, except that this is why they're in these negotiations, because they couldn't open the strait. So which one is it? Why are we in negotiations?
Like that ayah that you chose from Surah An-Nisa, Ahmed, is the best depiction of this, because this is one of the diseases, right, of the heart. Mudabdibin, the people who have this constant fluctuation. It's not uncertainty that drives them. It is this divide in their being, in their personality, because none of it is grounded in principles. So they are willing to say whatever it takes. They measure the truth based on their personal benefit. They change their principles according to the circumstances that they find themselves in. They're constantly in fear of losing the dunya. And that's what drives and motivates them. And this is what you see Trump here. That's why he's willing to fluctuate between what seems outwardly to someone who is grounded or sane as this fluctuation that we don't understand. SubhanAllah, it is this ayah. This is the disease that's occupying these people.
And I just love the use of that word, mudabdibin, like just so perfect.
I know, right? SubhanAllah.
So we'll be working on a parallel effort with the Gulf nations to address non-nuclear issues such as the conventional ballistic missiles, which we'll be talking about, and support. I mean, they have to have some because other people have some. You got to have some. Somebody said you shouldn't give them one. And I have guys. I like some of these guys, but I don't think they're. I don't think they're smart. Sir, you shouldn't let them have any missile. I said, no. What am I going to do? Am I going to let Saudi Arabia have missiles, but they can't have them? Yes, sir. Doesn't work that way, you know.
Oh, we know.
I get, to be honest, like personally, okay, Netanyahu, Yoav Gallant, even Biden, like some of these disgusting people make me sick and cringe. Trump, I get he's maybe as dangerous, more dangerous, worse than them, all that stuff. But he actually is funny. To me, I know people hate him and I get it, but it's just funny to me.
It would be so entertaining if he did not currently occupy the White House and was the commander-in-chief. It would be hilarious. But that's a disconnect that it creates in you where you're like, this is entertainment. But you finish saying the speech and then you go command the military. That's the part it's not funny anymore.
So I watch sometimes somebody like Secular Talk with Kyle Kalinske, and I know he hates Trump with it. Like the way I find the way he communicates funny, he does not. And I get it.
Mm-hmm.
I get there's people like that just see him the way maybe I see Biden or I see Hillary Clinton, something like that. It's foreshadowing because we are going to have Hillary on the show coming up soon.
Yay.
But I don't know. Again, I know he's the worst. There's no love lost for him, but it's just a little bit funny.
It is. What president frames discussions within his administration as, Mr. President, sir, we can't let them have missiles. And I said, yeah, you have to do it. It has to be done. I've never seen the head of a state stand and depict the inner conversations of an administration quite like this.
Yeah, no, I'm with you. And
the same way you tell your buddy, you know what I mean? Like, I was telling him, he was like, no, bro. And I was like, listen, bro,
Seriously, it's just like that. And I think this is part of his appeal to some people because he does sound like the way
Yeah,
you would normally
100%.
sound with
Yeah, yeah.
others. It's not so polished. And
Yeah, this is the elitism of the White House, of the leadership in America. I think Trump knew exactly what he was doing when he countered that with this relatability.
you know
It's like
who's
we're having a conversation amongst friends.
one person that was not happy at all about the ballistic missiles is, I think he's your favorite anchor. I'm not crazy about him.
I love this guy. He's a content mill. Okay, leave him alone.
So I looked at the MOU and I have a few problems with it.
Guys,
Enlighten us.
I don't understand why they did not speak to Mark Levin before they signed this MOU. He has a problem with it. Now what are you going to do?
I hope by voicing those problems, if we're going to take this route, and it's not clear that it'll be the final route, by the way, it's not clear there will be a final deal, or maybe there will. There's a couple problems I see. And so I raised them and hope that they'll be looked at. The nuclear issue is number 8 out of 14 points.
Because it's not an issue, buddy. Iran's already said they don't want a nuclear weapon.
Ahmed, let him finish speaking, please. Don't
Read it.
interrupt. You don't know where he's going with this.
Ambiguous. In my view, it should have been number 1, and it should be much more detailed, even in a memorandum of understanding. And I hope that'll happen. Number 2, will the Communist Chinese comply with whatever agreement we come up with? Will North Korea comply with any agreement we come up with? When President Trump leaves office, and let's say
It's so funny. The way their world is backwards. It's just so funny. This is, I think, part of their psychological warfare to just make people go nuts, to make people go insane. Because the US is the one that pulled out of the JCPOA. Trump is the one that pulled out of the Iran nuclear deal. And he's talking about, well, what's going to happen when another president comes to power? Is Iran going to stay by it? It's the US that's the problem. It's Israel that's the problem.
to Kamala Harris or Cory Booker or whomever it is, a whole conga line. Does anybody really believe that they will take the steps that are effective to stop this enemy from getting a nuclear weapon? How about the enriched uranium? Does anybody really
You're
believe they will
right.
take the steps
You
they're
guys
doing?
are the bulwark between us and a nuclear-armed Iran that was how long did they need? Within days, weeks, months, years, decades? Irrelevant. That should be number one. And Trump is clearly the president to make it happen. We just saw how he made it happen. He obliterated it and then dug it up only to re-obliterate it.
See, my contention is this. 3 years of Donald Trump, I can sleep at night. When he leaves office, I can't sleep at night.
How do you
Allah.
feel about that? Do you sleep at night knowing Trump is in office?
Guys, poor Mark, man. Like, maybe we should just re-elect Donald Trump for another maybe he should be the forever president of the United States because he's done such a phenomenal job of protecting the U.S. against Iran's non-existent nuclear program.
I could barely stay awake now that Trump is in office.
And I think the enemy knows that a lot of America might sleep for those 3 hours, and then after 3 years, and then afterwards it might strike. There are other things too. I'll just mention very, very quickly. How can you not address ballistic missiles? That is absurd. Intercontinental ballistic missiles are what carries nuclear warheads, and if they fire 3 or 4 or 5,000 at Israel or Saudi Arabia or anybody else, you cannot defend against it. And these things are as big as a yellow school bus. It's not a theory. We saw what they do. They can take in an entire neighborhood. So that needs to be addressed. And Hezbollah needs to be addressed too. Again, Hezbollah is Iran. And my view is, the way that language is written, no way in hell should America be a protectorate for Hezbollah. So,
Make up anything. Whatever we can make up, we'll throw words together.
say that? No, I didn't say that. So I just want to explain, I'm not an agent for the Israeli government.
I just
I
love them
don't
so
meet with
much.
the Israeli government. I don't conspire with the Israeli government. Believe it or not, I love this country, and I don't need any government to tell me that.
So Fox News host and influential conservative commentator Mark Levin emerged as one of the most prominent public advocates for U.S. military action against Iran, lobbying President Donald Trump in private while using his media platform to press for strikes. After the attacks, Levin publicly said he was among a small group that had urged Trump to carry out the operation. And this is him. If people are wondering what this is, he's speaking at the Israeli government-sponsored ultra-Zionist JNS summit in Jerusalem. It's letting us know that
You know,
he's
where
not
they go
being...
to remind them, yeah, they're American first, 100%.
A technical organization going in, the IAEA is going back in, and a deconflicting mechanism. So the next time there's a flare-up with Hezbollah and Israel, I guess ideally they'll check with each other before shooting at each other. Your thought about that?
Well, of course, we hope this can be successful. I hope that Vice President Vance and Kushner and Witkoff are successful in convincing Iran to be a normal country and to open their minds and stop trying to murder their...
I wonder what he means by normal country. Do you have any insights into that when they say normal country?
I think normal is the Western standard, right? So they should engage in more imperialistic, colonial-esque, capitalist actions. That would get them the label of normal.
That is definitely one option, but I think what's the ultimate point is just hand over your resources to us and oppress your people
Yes.
completely
Yes,
for
yes.
us.
My
As long
bad.
as
Yeah,
we're
you're
in
right.
control of
Allow
your
us to bring democracy and civilization and freedom to you.
let us
That's
suck
the
you
normal.
dry. Be normal.
There you go. Be normal, man.
neighbors and destroy the world. But the reality is this is a murderous regime that doesn't want a deal. They don't want $6 gasoline. They don't want the straits to be open. They want you and your family and all of us.
You know how we know he's telling the truth?
Mm-hmm.
Because the strait is closed. You see? He's telling the truth. Although it's closed because the U.S. unprovokingly attacked them, I don't understand this logic. Where does truth set in? Where does reality come into play?
To be killed. They want to wipe our civilization off the map. That's their national motto.
Nothing's changed.
Even though our president has been saying this constantly, he wants to wipe out their civilization off the map.
He's only saying that in response because he knows deep in their hearts Iran wants to wipe them off the face of the map. Similar to why they attacked, because they knew that, what was it again? Israel was going to attack Iran, and Iran would then attack Israel. And so the U.S. preemptively came in and knocked Iran, you know what I mean? And so now they're like, I know you want to destroy us, so I'm going to say those words for you and bomb you back to the Stone Ages.
That counts as self-defense, right?
100%.
And I don't think we've been successful in communicating that to the American people, that this isn't a regime that wants to negotiate. They want to buy as much.
All the propaganda, all the demonization of Muslims. Amy Mack right now ranting about a Shia masjid that was built in, I don't even remember where, because she's always going off about one masjid or the other. All of that, you guys have not done enough to demonize the Iranian people. God,
That's
and
the
you know,
problem.
at the top of this episode, I said that the Hesperists, you got to give it to them. They were working hard. Clearly, they're not working hard enough. Not hard enough. No.
That's the problem. More propaganda.
Times they
So you can, like, I was going to say, he just continues with this, but I wanted to point out the reason I included this video, or one of the reasons, in addition to his very insightful comments, was that this was shared by Mark Dubowitz, who, if you guys are unfamiliar with, guys, he is the CEO of who? The Foundation for Defense of Democracies. Where do we know them from, Ahmed? The ones who wrote the paper that was then used to justify the war on Iran. Literally, like, the White House was like, you know, when you're doing your homework, you have an essay to write, you don't have time, you're kind of rushed, you're doing, or maybe even worse, you're doing your essay for a friend. And you're like, I don't know why I'm doing this. So you just go on like copy paste. So the White House copy pasted FDD's reasons we should go to war against Iran document. And now he's like, guys, applaud this man because he's saying all the right things. He brings up they want to destroy America and they're not going to hold to the ceasefire. I can't remember what else. I tuned out most of it, to be honest with you.
If you thought, listen, man, this is just Fox News. The liberals, the Democrats, they've got their heads on, right? They're not asking for more war. We have an alternative. Just vote your way out of this paper bag.
So much of this also depends on how Israel is engaging in Lebanon, or whether they stop engaging in Lebanon. At what point is it important for the United States, for Iran and these mediators to actually bring Israel to the actual negotiating table?
Well, let's be clear. The Israelis, what's been going on in Israel vis-a-vis up north, Hezbollah has been causing havoc up in the north. Israel has been responding to that. Listen, no one's going to question the prime minister has very little interest in this transaction, this deal at this point. Ultimately, they also have, as John and I both know, a lot of things can be true at the same time in foreign policy. Israel's trying to defend their north.
I don't know if they
Self-defense, right?
Yeah.
Sorry,
Israel,
continue.
Hezbollah is causing havoc in the north, which he means South Lebanon. But
North of
maybe
Israel,
yeah,
right?
I think he's just already conceded that Israel's taken over the South Lebanon, so he's calling it North Israel, maybe.
Oh, maybe it's a Freudian slip because they're going for the north next, right?
Yeah, I mean, they're there now, and they're saying they're not leaving.
Bibi doesn't really want to do this deal. There's an enormous amount of anxiety among the Israelis. As in Israel,
I know they have so much anxiety. What do you mean, no more war? How am I supposed to sleep at night? Can we get
What
Trump
will
back?
we do with ourselves?
There's this need for war that
Could just imagine once a ceasefire is declared for the 24 hours-ish that it lasts, Israeli counselors must see an unprecedented boom in business, and all the Israelis come in and be like, what is the meaning of my life without fight? No bomb? No genocide? What do I do now?
honey, take a seat. I gotta break this news to you. What is it? What is it? There's no more war. No! No, why?
It's very anxiety inducing, and I know we make a lot of jokes on this podcast, but we probably shouldn't joke about the state of their mental health. Clearly,
Oh,
they're
don't
having
worry.
a complete moment of psychosis.
We will get
So,
into their mental state and how they can help themselves relieve their
I'm glad.
stress from
I'm
committing
glad.
genocide and ethnic cleansing.
2 weeks ago, and spent a lot of time in the bunker as the bombs were dropping down in Israel. So listen, a lot of things are confusing here, and the Israeli people are quite unhappy as well. So there's a lot of pressure on Netanyahu to keep it going in Lebanon, and obviously that's going to have huge.
Yeah, that's not the flex that you
Yeah,
think it is.
thanks for letting I was gonna say, thanks for letting us know that it is a state society problem. That Lord forbid an Israeli prime minister ever decides to do a ceasefire. The society will make sure that they voice their discontent. Like we always say, don't take it from us, guys. Take it from them. They say it better than we ever could.
So this is Nick Cruz. He says, MSNBC is just straight up Israeli media being broadcast to Americans. They criticize Trump for not bringing Israel in on the negotiations and to advocate for them to continue their genocidal war in Lebanon to kill the peace deal. And that is very true. Let's listen to this guy a little bit.
How you characterize this kind of settlement other than the Iranians got what they wanted, the Americans didn't, and that's where we're going from here.
And then, Hagar, what does that mean for the Lebanese?
Yeah, it's a disaster, actually, in so many ways. So Tom mentioned here that...
You see that? This ceasefire is a disaster for the Lebanese people.
I know.
They're sitting there
It's
praying day and
heartbreaking.
night for bombs to drop on them. And here, these guys come along with a ceasefire, ruining all the Lebanese fun.
That the Israelis are now being held back. And it sounds, a lot of people, it sounds like...
Come on, no. Let's hear it again without my interruption, because there's no way it sounds like how was she saying.
The Iranians got what they wanted, the Americans didn't, and that's where we're going from here.
And then, Hagar, what does that mean for the Lebanese?
Yeah, it's a disaster, actually, in so many ways. So Tom mentioned here that the Israelis are now being held back. And it sounds, a lot of people, it sounds like a ceasefire would be a good thing, right? Normally that sounds like something you'd want.
I can't.
Normally,
Walaa.
but let us explain to you why the ceasing of the fire, no good. More fire now. We demand fire.
Normally, ceasefire is a good thing. But when you're
Normally.
blowing up, how to babies and demolishing entire ancient villages, this is actually a positive thing that we should all be in support for, including the Lebanese.
If you see who it is that they're bringing on, you know that they're specifically platforming people who have an agenda, right? They have a bone, they have a stick in this game, or whatever you want to call it. The first guy on the MSNBC clip is a US ambassador to Israel. This girl right here is the co-founder of the Lebanese Israel Peace Committee, blah, 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 blah.
That's
They're
like an
here.
oxymoron.
An oxymoron, right? 100%. And she's here to explain why a ceasefire. I'm sorry, girl, aren't you the peace person? Why is she arguing that the ceasefire is no good? No good ceasefire in this case. Because of Hezbollah, I'm assuming.
Normally, that sounds like something you'd want in Lebanon or anywhere. But the fact is that if we focus on Lebanon specifically, it's not there's no deal. Everybody was told to stop shooting, to put their arms down. We've now told one of our most important allies in the world that we don't want them defending themselves. The strike that Trump condemned over the weekend was a strike that was after a Hezbollah terrorist wanted by the United States for having killed 5 Americans, kidnapped and killed 5 Americans, Mohammed Katoue. And here we are telling our ally that strike should have never happened.
They just love death and destruction so much. I don't know how you can go on TV and just continue pushing for more people being killed. They destroyed entire buildings.
This is
Even if
their
there's one
job,
person they're going
Ahmed.
after.
This is their job. If it was the CEO of the Federal Defense for Democracies, or this girl here who also is a non-resident at the Atlantic Council, what is the entire purpose of their existence? Warmongering, right? This is why they exist. This is why they are the talking heads that come on the news and tell the people that despite what you may think about a ceasefire being a good thing or
It's
negotiations
not just
being a
what
good
you
thing.
think. It's despite your innate human nature to not want to see death and destruction, fight that urge and go along with this destruction and mass chaos and killing and slaughter.
100%. Yeah. Because they're not done. They didn't get their objectives, which I mean,
they will never be done.
I was going to say, right? What is that logical fallacy of moving the goalposts? They will never be done. They'll tell you that the goalpost right now is the elimination of Hezbollah, or in the case of what they did in Gaza, or in the case of what they did in Iran. They will continue to move the goalpost because their end goal is not what they're telling you they are doing. It is annihilation, complete control, land seizure, expansion of empire. And does that ever end? When you have such a gluttonous appetite for death, destruction, resource at any cost, how do you satiate that appetite? You can't. There will always be another goalpost. Thanks, Hajar. Really hope you're not Lebanese, but chances are you are. Yes, sell out.
Because the Iranian regime gets shaky about it, because they're the ones suddenly that have the strength to negotiate from a position of strength. In Lebanon specifically, when you have a ceasefire that doesn't detail how Hezbollah is going to get disarmed, who's doing the disarmament.
For the love of God, Ahmed, you think we'd learn our lesson. None of the ceasefire agreements detail how the disarmament is going to happen. No wonder they're upset.
And they're always pushing for the wrong person to get disarmed, to be honest. Hezbollah is in their country. Hezbollah is made up of Lebanese. Love them or hate them, they're Lebanese people. And they came out after the Israeli invasion in 1982 to defend and resist Israeli occupation and slaughter and destruction of their country. That's where they came out of. Before Israel, there was no Hezbollah. And here we have again
100%.
Nick
100%.
Cruz.
But I mean, I will say that the ceasefire not having the details of disarmament of the people who are resisting is a tried and true way to say that a ceasefire is worth sabotaging. Because isn't that why the Gaza ceasefire is never held? It's like their little caveat. They like to throw it in there and just be like, how will they disarm? And how can we have our benchmarks of disarmament so that we can stop bombing them? We can't, and so we will continue to bomb.
How can we make sure that there is no way anybody could ever possibly stop Israel from genociding and ethnic cleansing?
Yeah.
That's how I see it.
That is what it is.
So they are furious that Iran put an end to the Israeli slaughter in Lebanon. United States corporate media is completely and utterly deranged. Again, this is MS Now, they call it? Yeah. It's
MS
supposed to
Now,
be
yeah.
the left-leaning
Yeah, and
media.
like we always show on the podcast, left or right, they are foaming at the mouth for war, guys.
So this is the
Ceasefire?
part
No.
This is the part when the Iranian delegation left. I believe it was because Trump threatened them.
بحسب السلطات السويسرية هي ستقتصر على اليوم فقط.
So you can see here the feeling of shock and disappointment on the face of Pakistan's prime minister after he was informed the Iranian delegation are leaving after Trump threatened them. Yeah, so it's just like, oh no.
سيكون هناك لجان تقنية وفنية بحسب ما أعلنته قطر ستتابع.
Now, another thing here, we could watch a little bit of this. This is Breaking Points, not to be confused with Break Glass.
The relationship with the most Yeah, I mean, again, let's remember too that the Omanis were really the expert mediators between the United States and Iran, and because of Steve Witkoff's behavior and the White House's behavior, they toxified the relationship with the most knowledgeable.
Maybe because he's a staunch Zionist, kind of doesn't make sense to take one of the most crazy fanatical Zionists to negotiations for the U.S. Have him represent Israel, maybe.
Force that the U.S. had been working with for
Excuse
decades
me.
on this issue.
Israel and America are one.
No,
How do you
and
represent America without representing Israel? Check yourself, bro.
The Qataris have really emerged as the primary mediators right now. Yes, Pakistan gets to put its signature on these documents, but it's quite clear that Qatar is now in the prime position taking the lead on all of this. And I think we have to remember, again, a concession that President Trump made that is very important is that he basically said, we don't actually need the enriched uranium to be taken outside of.
So I just wanted to share that with people that Qatar
I just want
has
to point
taken.
out that I appreciate Jeremy Scahill's attempts to pronounce Qatar.
I know, I picked up on that too.
Yeah, it's not Qatar. Like, I don't know if you're talking about cutting someone or something that cuts or the country, okay?
Yeah, I do
I
appreciate
appreciate it.
Shout
Thanks,
out.
Jeremy. We see you. Eric Erickson, the State Department said last week that Iran uses its oil revenue to fund terror. Today, the United States is waiving restrictions on Iran to sell oil. They will fund terror and re-weaponize. It appears the goal of the Vance plan is to force the U.S. into isolation by funding Iran's rearmament so we cannot attack them due to the missile shield they will build.
The interesting thing here is that you notice how they call it the Vance deal. How did all these neocons generally decide that Trump's deal with Iran should be called the Vance deal so they could pretend that Trump somehow isn't involved in it and that criticizing the deal, therefore, doesn't require criticism of Trump? Does it mean that J.D. Vance duped or hypnotized Trump, or Trump is unaware of what Vance is doing? There was a video, which I could not find again, where Trump is saying how somebody asked him that if this deal doesn't work out, are you going to blame Vance? And he says, yeah, let's go with that. That sounds like a good idea. So he just openly said it. Then again, these are the people that are negotiating. You have a veteran of the Iran-Iraq war, jet pilot, former commander of the IRGC Air Force, former mayor of Tehran. You have a PhD in political geography from a top Iranian university. And your opponent is Pete Hegseth, a former National Guard guy and talk TV show host. It's just laughable. How could you even begin to take him seriously at the table? The mismatch across every area is so extreme.
So, Chatuya Chinagolam, America has brilliantly mastered the psychological warfare of creeping normality, manufactured consent, and strategic gaslighting. The relentless bombardment of southern Lebanon by Israeli troops has somehow successfully convinced the public that it is strictly Israel that is aggressively violating the ceasefire, while the United States is working tirelessly, selflessly, and around the clock to reach a diplomatic deal, broker a ceasefire, and end the war. First, understand that assembling a massive armada of nuclear warships, advanced carrier strike groups, and marine expeditionary units to aggressively blockade another sovereign nation's ports, airspace, or trade routes is itself a direct, unambiguous declaration of war under international law, according to the United Nations Charter and Geneva Conventions. So factually speaking, it is America that has been actively, violently violating the ceasefire from day one. Secondly, completely ignore the ridiculous narrative being aggressively pushed in public that all of a sudden American politicians who stood unilaterally and unconditionally behind Israel when they leveled every single residential building, hospital, school, and refugee camp in the Gaza Strip are now suddenly attacking Israel, crying on television and complaining about how they are handling the situation in southern Lebanon and knocking down buildings. This is a highly staged, meticulously scripted theatrical act cooked up purely so that you channel all of your righteous anger, political frustration, and explosive aggression away from the genocidal, resource-grabbing empire sitting in Washington, D.C., and redirect it towards a highly disposable, heavily armed colonial military outpost in the Middle East. Fascinating stuff.
There's a lot more, but I think you've captured the point of this tweet.
This is,
Everything-
sorry, I just want to point out, this is the exact inconvenient truth that the corporate media completely refuses to talk about because they desperately want to maintain the ridiculous, highly comforting conspiracy theory that Israel somehow controls America using AIPAC lobbying, campaign donations, and the Epstein files to blackmail and force a supposedly helpless, innocent, and peace-loving U.S. into endless foreign wars. I think she lost the plot, bro.
I mean, look, let's just keep going here. Everything Israel does in the Middle East, it does so strictly on behalf of and for the benefit of the American empire. Israel is absolutely not attacking southern Lebanon to force America into a hostile endless war scenario in the Levant. Rather, Israel is executing these precise attacks because America actively provides them with massive shipments of 2,000-pound bunker buster bombs, real-time satellite telemet, advanced military coordinates, and so on and so on. The reality is that Israel does not possess the sovereign capital, the domestic industrial base or whatever, or the long range required to engage in full-scale full-on invasion. You're not buying
Sorry,
this?
bro. I think she lost the plot. She's attempting now to say that Israel is operating as the U.S. wants. And we've seen this. She's doing the exact thing she's accusing people of doing with America putting the blame on Israel.
Yeah, I
They
think
are
it's a
both
guy, first of
equally
all.
complicit.
Let's take a look.
It's a guy?
Yes.
Hey, Chatayu, I'm sorry, my brother. I thought it was a girl from the photo. It was very small.
But honestly, I think I lean more towards the way he looks at it.
Really? So you
Yeah.
think that Israel معترين, they're being forced to do this because America's the one that's funding them? Come
No,
on,
I
bro.
think they're in lockstep. I think they
But he's
have...
not saying they're in lockstep. Like if you
Yeah.
look at the tweet, he's attempting to say, go down to that one part that I read. Scroll up a little bit.
Everything Israel does in the
No,
Middle East is...
Scroll up a little bit. Read this paragraph right here. Notice that even as American politicians are relentlessly, hypocritically complaining about Israel's kinetic attacks and artillery barrages in southern Lebanon, they're still actively loading up heavy bunker buster bombs, tank shells, and millions of rounds of ammunition into military cargo vessels, shipping them straight to Israel to enable them to continue the onslaught. This is the exact inconvenient truth that the corporate media completely refuses to talk about because they desperately want to maintain the ridiculous, highly comforting conspiracy theory that Israel somehow controls America using AIPAC lobbying, campaign donations, and the Epstein files to blackmail. Those aren't conspiracy theories. AIPAC lobbying, campaign donations, and the Epstein files are very much real facts in this. Now,
Okay,
who's using
but
them
here-
against
okay.
who? Calling the AIPAC lobbying, campaign donations, the Epstein files, a conspiracy theory? What you don't need to go there to prove your point. America is going into this hand in hand in lockstep, warmongering with the best of them with Israel. That is also in lockstep, hand in hand, warmongering.
So I get what you're trying to say. Maybe he means it the way you're saying it, because I don't think he's being necessarily very clear with the point. But I also, to an extent, agree in this sense. When AIPAC supports, for instance, somebody like Ted Cruz already came into government, but he said it himself. My stated purpose was to be the #1 advocate or defender of Israel. So they're funding him, but his ideology is already aligned with Israel. You see what I'm saying? So it's not like, I don't think it's AIPAC necessarily that has influenced him to be a supporter of Israel. I think Israel chooses him because he's a supporter of Israel. Does that make sense?
Yes. Can I counter that, or do you have more to your argument?
No, counter that, and then we can go on.
Okay, so I'll counter this by saying, how many campaigns recently have we seen where AIPAC derails the campaign, including most recently Thomas Massey, and then goes on to gloat how through the work of AIPAC, they were able to derail a politician that stood against Israel. So yes, you're absolutely right. Birds of a feather flock together. They will fund the people that they find that are supporting, but the AIPAC lobbying does more than just fund the people that they support that are already in lockstep with Israel. They also make certain to deplatform, delegitimize, and remove the opponents of the American-Israeli lobby.
I agree with you, but I think that is also done with the more than consent, with the help of both party
course.
leadership. So you see Democrats
yeah.
won't support somebody like Mamdani, or you'll see Republicans not support somebody like Massey. So yes, they give the roadway for, so it's not like these institutions that have taken over the government, whether it's Democrats or Republicans, are against this, and they're also helpless. It's they're part of
Yes.
that system as well. So they give way for AIPAC
Exactly.
to come in and do what they need to do.
Exactly. And the way that he's setting this up, if he means, and I find it difficult to give him leeway here, given that he's saying that it's a highly comforting conspiracy theory. Bro, this isn't a conspiracy theory. Don't do that. Don't minimize it. Don't try to undo all the work that has been done that we do here, what we attempt to do here on the podcast, which is draw the connections between power, between empire, between narratives to get this whole picture into a simple bad guy narrative type of situation. America is the ultimate bad guy. They are 100%. The American empire is a bad guy, but they're not doing this alone. Israel isn't a pawn of theirs. We've said Israel is a military outpost of the United States, but that doesn't mean that they are a pawn that is being used somehow in the service of the American empire. And they're the masakin here. They're helpless and they're being used against their wishes. This is an oversimplification and it doesn't do justice to the situation. And it's not even useful, this narrative. The useful narrative right now is how are they cooperating? How are they working together across party lines, across state lines to maintain this corrupt world order that is destroying our world?
And I'll take it even a step further, because there are, I'm sure, we talk about some of the more well-known names like Hakeem Jeffries or, Ted Cruz, these sort of figures. But I'm sure there are a lot of people in government that aren't really one way or another, but they feel like if I'm going to be a career politician, I need to get involved with AIPAC because that is my route to become leadership or to advance in my career. So in that sense, they probably don't have them as like cheerleaders the same way some of the more prominent figures are, but there's still influence and they take money and then they become part of that system, even though they're not necessarily Israel cheerleaders, but they just become that way because they go into that system. So yeah, no, I agree with you. I think and maybe his framing of conspiracy theory, he means it that way, that he's looking at it as a conspiracy theory, but I think we're way beyond conspiracy theory. Israel
100%.
openly boasts about influence. AIPAC openly boasts about influence. And
Absolutely.
it's very possible that like Netanyahu is the president of the United States of Israel, but it's by design too.
Exactly, with the full consent of the United States. This is what I mean, is that he is doing the exact thing he is accusing them of doing. Don't say Israel controls the United States. It's actually the US that controls Israel. Ya habibi, don't oversimplify it like this. They both control each other willingly.
I think this line is even more damning, where he says everything Israel does in the Middle East, it does so strictly on behalf of and for the benefit of the American empire. That part there, if we're talking about the American empire, where Israel is also the exact same thing as the American empire, then it benefits
Yeah.
both. They're both in lockstep in that way. But if he's saying that Israel's a tool and they're the helpless ones or they're the ones being used, because I think there was another part in here that we saw where he says they are expendable. I don't think they're expendable in that way. So I guess at the end of it, we came to the same
Yeah, I mean,
conclusion.
I dislike this oversimplification of what's happening. I think it's a disservice to the people, and it undoes a lot of the work that has been done. There's no need to throw the Epstein files in there as a conspiracy when we should know and we should be aware of exactly what's happening. And this idea again that you can somehow blame one state as a bad actor in this world order is the same thing as saying you can blame the Democratic Party or the Republican Party. It is a gross oversimplification. It's not
Yeah.
that simple and that clear cut. It would be nice if it was, because then, the same logic would say that Netanyahu is the problem and Trump is the problem and Biden was the problem. It's much more complicated than that. I would have loved to believe that it's a one-person problem. It isn't.
That example you're giving about the Democrats and
Yeah.
Republicans looking at one. Let's take a look now, because this is also one of the problems that we've discussed before about the rift and how Israel's turning on them. Is the rift with us in the room right now? They talk about the rift like Trump versus Netanyahu or Biden versus Netanyahu, like brought to you by Axios.
Now, I saw the Axios report, that Netanyahu is fuming. That's not reflective of the conversations that I've had with him, but maybe he's saying something to somebody else that he's not saying to me. What I will say, and this does bother me, is that you've seen people within Bibi's cabinet who have come out and attacked the deal, and in some ways very personally attacked the president of the United States. And I guess my message to them would be twofold. Number one, Donald J. Trump is the only head of state in the entire world who is sympathetic to the nation of Israel.
Actually, I love this, and I don't think that this has been discussed online at all. But his own admittance here is that Israel now has been isolated globally. I don't think it's done by governments or people in power, but as a global, even for optics, you'll see a lot of head of states talk about Israel, even if they're still supporting them. And there's many examples of countries like that. But they're admitting it, that the optics of it, you cannot
No,
stand by
even if
Israel.
it's
We're the only ones that are
performative,
still
right?
doing that.
I think he hit the nail on the head with that one. Is even performative Canada, Australia, New Zealand, they're still at least putting up the show of we still recognize international law to some extent and we call upon you guys to use it. America is just like international who? International hospital law? That's the only one we recognize.
Yeah.
This moment in time. And he happens to be the head of state of the world superpower. If I was in the cabinet of the Israeli government,
You aren't?
I'm not
News to
powerful
me.
that I have anywhere left in the entire world.
Yeah.
And the second message I would give to some of those cabinet members, Bibi, to his credit, has not gone down this path, but to some of these cabinet members in Israel who are attacking the president of the United States, the other thing that I would say is that over the last 3 months, 2/3 of the defensive weapons that have protected your homeland have been built by American hands and paid for by.
I mean, thank you for letting us know that you are absolutely complicit and part of that. I mean, we all know, but it's good to hear him say it like this so openly.
American tax dollars. The problem for Israel is not Donald J. Trump. And anybody in Israel who thinks their biggest problem is the president of the United States needs to wake up and smell the reality of the situation that country is in.
So let's see what it says here.
JD Vance ends his press conference by turning on Israel. What does bother me is you've seen people in Bibi's cabinet who have come out and attacked the deal and in some ways very personally attacked the president. My message to them is Donald J. Trump is the only head in the state in the entire world who is sympathetic to the nation of Israel at this moment of time. 100%. Trump picked J.D. Vance to be his VP after Peter Thiel and Tucker Carlson convinced him that the anti-war America First isolationist fake persona they built around him was popular for the election. Now another election is looming, so they're trotting the BS facade out again. And then this Thiel-Mossad fraud will go right back to laundering the relaunching of the war on Iran, just like he did before. And Tucker will go back to not saying a single word about him doing so just as he didn't over the past. This is the media game being played by these depraved scumbags.
Think
Well said.
well
yeah.
said. I don't know how you feel about Tucker Carlson, but still till now he says a lot of problematic things, and I'm always very skeptical of people that talk like that. But I think you're supposed to give people a little bit of, not the benefit of the doubt, but allow them to change and shift their. So we'll see. It's unfolding. I'm going to see how it goes. If you ask me now, I'm skeptical. I don't think he's necessarily fully sincere, but some of the stuff he's saying is pretty anti-Israel, and for me, that's also a positive.
The enemy of my
you know.
enemy is my friend. I will say this about Tucker. I appreciate that
So-
he does not attempt to whitewash his past. I don't know if this is something that's intentional, that he recognizes. He seems like a very, very, very smart man. He appears to be operating on principle, his Christian beliefs and principles. However, where were they when you were warmongering against Iran and against
this is
Iraq?
my
And
point.
where were you? Where were those same principles? It could be that he has changed. He found God at a later age, and now, he is. But we need to see more as a people, as a community, because the damage you did was extensive. It was extensive. Everyone who whitewashed what happened in Iraq is part
Yeah,
and parcel of how many people? 7 million people as a result of the war of terror? 6 million? How many?
Oh, the war on terror? From the beginning of that till now, I think it's 38 million people.
38 million people. Those are a lot of lives to even have a shred.
And
Yeah.
a million
Yeah.
in Iraq
So
alone.
I'd like to see more from him before, but for now the jury's out. He's doing good work. I am okay to have him continue to do that good work. He reaches an audience you and I are not going to reach, bro. Yeah, they're not going to be tuning in to watch our show or most of the shows that are doing good work. So I think, like his Mike Huckabee interview alone, I give him credit for that. That was good stuff. That was good stuff.
Yeah, that was good stuff. Like, I don't, and the thing is, there's
In that
nobody
space,
else
right?
other than him
Yeah.
in that
I think
position that could
there's
be able to pull something like that off. So
Brianna Joy
sometimes you
Gray,
need to
Candace Owens. There's a
do that.
couple. There's Marjorie Taylor Greene.
No, Brianna Joy Gray is
Okay,
pretty
not her.
left-leaning
Candace
already
Owens,
from the
sorry,
beginning.
and
But
Marjorie
Candace
Taylor Greene. There are a
Owens,
couple, but definitely Tucker's audience is. You need Tucker to get to Tucker's audience. I'll say that.
I don't even know if Candace could pull
No, she
an
can't.
interview like that off, to be honest. Not that she doesn't have the talent to
Yeah.
do it, but to be in the position to do
And
it.
Candace Owens
right?
is a little
Tucker
bit
being a
more
white
problematic
male.
than Tucker, in my opinion.
Here we have, this is from Glenn Greenwald, quoting Zay Squirrel. And he says, last year, Netanyahu and Trump White House directed its former IDF intel operative at Axios and CNN, Barak Ravid, to repeatedly announce there was a huge rift. This is that rift that keeps appearing between the two leaders because Trump wouldn't let Israel attack Iran. Many, if not most, believe there was some truth to that Trump wanted a deal, not a war with Iran, and I must count myself among those. So again, I like when people acknowledge their short-sightedness maybe is not the best way to, yeah. But Zay Squirrel insisted repeatedly that it was all a ruse to deceive Iran into complacency so that U.S.-Israel could attack while Iran thought diplomacy was real. Zay's analysis was correct. Zay again urges that there is still no rift between the U.S. and Israel, that nothing has fundamentally changed in the relationship, and that Trump could and quite possibly will just go back to war with Iran when the political and economic conditions are more favorable. Worth reading. And then
Sure.
maybe you want to do this one?
Once again, there is no, oh my God, break between Trump and Netanyahu. Panic. And once again, all the same hacks who laundered this deception con all the previous times are doing it again without having admitted and apologized for having done it before and being proven wrong, with Trita Parsi leading the way as always. That's why he gets the Koch brothers, Soros, Ford, and Rockefeller Foundation cash. There are zero material signs of an actual break, literally zero. All you have are the same bull, BS, Barak Ravid, Mossad asset-style leaks, and Israeli Hasbara propaganda rags that are all just empty words. Trump said he felt betrayed. Trump said Israel is too careless. Trump said he prefers Jolani. Trump said this. Trump said that. Trump said, he said. shut the F up. Then you get the epic Trita Parsi quote tweet. He really gone at the now. He really humiliating Netanyahu. Oh my God, this is so epic and base, guys. Oh my God. You effing hack. How many times are you? I can see why you gave me this tweet. Okay. It's a minefield. So it continues like that. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. This is the part that pisses me off. We're going to get into the Hesperus reaction. Okay. In a couple tweets here. You cannot tell me that they aren't actually pissed off that they have to stop the bombing. You can't. I'm not saying that there's a rift. I'm not saying that they're fuming, but stop bombing. Big problem. Big feelings. Big ego hurt. This is how we'll see.
So this part here, I'm just going to go over it. The U.S. is still providing Israel with all the funds and arms it needs, and no one has even raised the possibility of limiting that, let alone actually doing so. The U.S. is still providing Israel with all the diplomatic cover it needs. We're going to get into one of those very shortly. In the UN and other international bodies, and in fact is aggressively destroying them to ensure Israel's safety. No one has even raised drawing that effort back, let alone actually doing it. Israel firsters run Trump's entire administration and policy positions on Israel and Iran. Wyckoff and Kushner, whose first and only loyalty is to Israel, are still in place and sign off on everything that is done. No one has even raised the possibility of them being removed from the administration, let alone actually doing it. And these are the things that I've been saying. That I want to see, if this is true, I want to see this. Because this is where it really actually matters. And Israel keeps violating the terms of the MOU by bombing Lebanon. Zero material steps have been taken to stop it, let alone buying the deranged lunatic fantasy that it has to get to that point if Trump and the U.S. admin actually want it to stop. No limiting of arms, funds, diplomatic cover, not even withdrawing its own forces, no firings of Israel lobbyists, no resignations, nothing. There is literally nothing. This is the part that I think matters.
So there's nothing material that has shifted
this is
and
why
changed.
I say.
And that is what matters, right? This is where we want the change to happen, because this is where we save lives and where justice can maybe just start to not even bloom or blossom, but just begin.
But to your point, it is true that, yes, a lot of these people are freaking out. And how do we explain that? Or how would I explain that? My point would be either one, they're not in on the whole deal. So they just see it from the outside. They're like, less war. No, more war. Why are you doing less war? They get really angry and upset about that. And they don't want the war to stop and the killing to stop for even 1 second. Or maybe they are part of that, PSYOP Hezbollah thing where they're putting on a thing. I think the second option are very few, but maybe there are a couple like that. But I think for the most part, they're not really privy to more of the internal details. Or it's maybe just part of the
We
act.
saw Mark Levin,
that's how I would explain
and
it.
we're gonna see a couple more of the Hesperists. He's an
He's an
idiot,
idiot.
but at the same time, we saw the Federal Defense for Democracy CEO. We saw Hajar, whatever her face is. We saw the former U.S. ambassador to Israel. I don't know that I believe that this is all an act. I'm not saying that there is a rift, or I will say this, if there is a rift in that we want full-fledged genocide versus, guys, can we slow down the genocide? It's not a tangible rift. The rift is meaningless because nothing is materializing or coming out of it. It's still continuing. It's maybe they're arguing about the pace with which we ethnically cleanse and genocide, right? However, that's real to me. The reactions are real, and we'll get into it. Let's take a look at some of them, and then maybe we can see. Maybe this is all a psyop, and I'm just buying into it.
Let's get into it now.
Oh my God, guys. يا معتر يا Trump, والله. Brianna Wu, Iran is taking advantage of this poor, senile 80-year-old man.
Trump cancels Iran strike, says peace deal could be signed in coming days. Right, because you would have so easily won the war if they had parachuted you into Tehran.
This is Trump in a hospital gown. Those Iranians you're talking to, are they here with us?
So another one here. Let's see. Again, one of the people that can't get enough war.
Mark Levin or Mark Levin. Little is said about the unfolding Iran deal if the Democrats win the presidency next. Look at this disgusting party. It's promoting Islamists and Marxists left and right. Anybody think it will have the will to enforce anything, even modest enforcement mechanisms we may be cobbling together? This is similar to the video that you had posted earlier. Poor guy isn't going to sleep a wink. It's a Democratic Party.
How do you expect
I
them to sleep when
can't.
there's no war going on? And then we have here
Shabos Kestenbaum, potentially. A pleasure speaking with Professor Gad Saad. If you guys aren't familiar with Gad Saad.
who's a
What?
crazy
Gad
Islamophobe.
Saad? Crazy? Isn't he the one that just left recently?
So sad.
Or he's like, I can no longer live here with the anti-Semitism. About how the... Oh,
No,
he
he
did
just
that.
said
Okay.
that. I don't think he
I was
left.
wondering. I was like, where are you going to go, bro? Israel? Like...
I know he's sad, but has he tried crying
this is
about it?
his take, guys. The West is killing... Do I cry? Do I laugh? The West is killing itself at the altar of kindness. If ever you could accuse the West
You
of
know,
something, it's
you know
killing
what?
itself at the altar of kindness. From open borders, please
I don't think
enlighten
you're
me.
familiar with their new bombs.
What are they?
They
I'm
hug
sorry. The
people to
bombs
death.
that hug people to death?
This new technology they have that hug people to death, like their bombs when they drop. Yeah,
I
so
assumed that they were
that's
just dropping
kindness.
glitter bombs everywhere, which, by the way, should be a war crime if it isn't. Because if you have young girls who use glitter, good luck ever getting it out of your carpet or hardwood or anything. From open borders and Islamic immigration to hate speech laws and medical suicide, the West is engaging in suicidal empathy. But how do we stop it? Gad's got the solution.
They're just
They're
too
too
nice.
nice. What is this?
Is
No,
there a
no,
part of this you
we
want me
don't
to
have to play
play?
the actual thing. Yeah, we're not going to watch the clip,
Thank God.
but I mean, it's just if you would like to hear Gad's theory about how kindness is killing us, please go to his page and look at it.
All right. Oh, okay. Let's see here. There's another one that I'm going to share.
Again.
Shabos Kestenbaum. Open letter to the White House. Get Marco Rubio on the air now to explain this deal. We still don't know what it entails. JD's openly contradicting himself. Never mind the fact that he believes World War II ended in negotiation rather than, I don't know,
American military dominance. Always. Where is Marco Rubio to explain to Shabazz?
Yep.
Where is he? Someone get him on the air.
Those are some of the pro-war, pro-Israel, Israel first and
They're
only people
tantruming
crying
at this
about
point.
peace that we see.
So, you tell me there
But-
is no rift. I agree with you. There is no material, tangible rift. The rift, if it is there, does not extend in any way, shape, or form to impacting the lives of the people that are at stake, that are being bombed and starved and genocided and ethnically cleansed. The rift does not extend to them. However, is there some discontent, let's say, with the warmongers? I would say they're pretty discontent at this point. They want more war. The FDD CEO is not too happy about this deal because, I mean, the Federal Defense of Democracies exists primarily to incite war against Iran and other Muslim majority countries, right? This is what they wanted. This is what they've been gunning for. I bet when the White House used their paper as a justification for the current war against Iran, they were like, our time has come, guys. This is it. We're here. We made it. And they're like popping champagne and chilling. And now they have to go back to the drawing board and tell us again about how the nuclear bomb is going to materialize within anywhere from 24 hours to 24 decades.
I mean, they hardly even did a good job of that. They did so much more work when they invaded Iraq. This time around, it was just, we've obliterated their nuclear capabilities, but it's still there. But also, we want to do regime change. But also, we got to save these 100,000 protesters that
Yeah.
were killed. They were all over the place. They didn't really
They
have
were.
one thing that they were going after. And I think some of the pushback and crying that they're doing now is maybe, when you see anytime anybody that is very pro-Israel, to any extent, voice any, I wouldn't even say criticism, just not full-throated at the top of your lungs support,
100%.
they're automatically attacked. And maybe this is one of those where they know, listen, they're still supporting us, they're still doing everything, but they're not letting us kill, or they've agreed not to go nuts right now.
Yeah,
Maybe that's enough for them
absolutely.
to set them up. But let me ask you, when it comes to what Americans can do with their money, aren't you always curious that they're helping too much people and they're too invested in peace when they could be spending that money at home to help normal, average, everyday Americans, and not about the $1.5 trillion military budget? Because you see, Amy Klobuchar has been talking about this forever. She wants to help fund good things for Americans. Cancer research, homelessness, give every child free pre-K for 7 years. Instead, Trump is sending it to Iran. Poor her. Not a single dollar of this is American taxpayer money. The $300 billion
How
would come
dare
from
they
Gulf
fact
nations
check her?
investing. Maybe you shouldn't have sent... Maybe you shouldn't
That's
have sent
different.
hundreds
They're
of billions to
white.
Ukraine.
Next. I'm just gonna go through these and like discredit them. How do you use this money? Track AIPAC. Anti-Semitic. Go to the next one. Yalla. If 300 billion magically ends homelessness, cures cancer, and funds free pre-K, what the hell have you been useless parasites done with our trillions for decades? Irrelevant. Your name is Honey Bomb. Nobody wants to listen to you. Not to mention all the empty Somali daycares your state could open for that cash. I don't know what you're getting at, but I don't like it. That is just, I know, 100%.
It's just racist. He's trying to be racist.
Yeah,
It's all
this
the
is hilarious. Yeah, 100%. What about the eight? I wonder if was Amy just as concerned
we
about
have
the 80
here-
billion they spent to bomb Iran, or was that justified spending? 80 billion can't do anything, right?
No, that... Whenever it comes, and this is what this guy here, Derek Davison, is saying, it's wild how they suddenly remember all these other uses for money when it comes to ending a war, but not when the Pentagon requests $1.5 trillion
Okay, Derek,
annual
it's not even
budget
about
for the
ending
Department
the
of
war. It's because they lost and they're humiliated. And it's a crappy narrative. Look, America relies on brute force, or I'm sorry, how did Shabazz put it? American military dominance, meaning we bigger, we stronger, we pummel you to the ground into submission. And so it didn't work again. Starting to...
Well, I like this. Look at what this could be bought here for the $1.5 trillion.
No
You could
way.
end world hunger for $93 billion, end global extreme poverty for $318 billion, end U.S. homelessness for $29
End
billion,
world
and so
hunger?
on and so on.
No. What?
Imagine they spent this money. If they took on this campaign, do you think the U.S. would have any real enemies?
That is insane. How do you, I'm sorry, but I've never actually seen end world hunger and end global poverty quantified. That is insanity. I'm curious how we got this estimate. But even if you go underneath that, a mere fraction would solve half of America's problems. Right?
Yeah. They're just spending this money on killing people and that's why I say a lot of times that is the point. People like to say their nuclear weapon or ceasefire or Strait of Hormuz or all this stuff. And even Hamas and Hezbollah. No, one of the points is in and of itself more death. and killing and murdering and slaughtering of people. This is one of the points, because if you can get to where you wanted to get to, if you're claiming it's about, for instance, pacifying the Palestinians so they're not resisting their own occupation, if you wanted to do that, there is easier ways to get there. But that's not what they want. Part of it is they want that death and destruction.
There's that South African anthropologist, Jason Hickel, who has the Why Foreign Aid is a Scam. I assume you've seen that. It was
Yeah, I don't know if I've seen
yeah,
his, but I've looked into
100%.
that
So
before.
I think it's more than just ending it. It's because in order to end it, then you're no longer profiting off of it, right? It's a cycle that they need to keep alive in order to fund the war machine. Weapons aren't free, Ahmed. It requires a lot of money that I still don't quite understand how it exists when there's a $3.5 trillion debt. Bro, if I miss one payment, okay, listen, my bank account was hacked into recently. There was a check fraud. And so I had to close the account. And, because I'm a good citizen, I pay my monthly community membership subscription to the gym that I do not use. I do Pilates instead, but I still have that one ongoing. Sorting out, bro, it's $25 a month. They will hound me because it used to be pre-authorized debit. I closed my debit account. They'll hound me for $25. $25. I've told them 100 times, just send me a link so I can update the PAD on my end so you don't have to hound me every single month for $25. And yet somehow the US has like $1 trillion in debt. Who's hound? Why are they coming after my $25, man? I'm gonna pay it.
Honestly, this is
Yeah,
part
like
of the
when you mentioned
system
that
that
Walgreens theft. Exactly, right?
exactly. It's the same thing. When you talk about one of the there was a new article, and I didn't include it in this podcast, but I'm saving it for the next one, about AI and how the consumer of AI needs to be more ethical in how they use it, not the companies that are raking in profits and destroying the entire ecosystem and environment and water. That's not the issue. Paper straws. That's the solution
Paper
to
straws. That way I
environmental
can hate my life if I try to drink
catastrophe.
my drink 5 minutes after receiving it from a soggy straw. I'm not for plastic straws, bro.
I mean, to be honest, it's helped me out. I've stopped drinking anywhere that has paper straws, so it's really cut down both spending money outside and a lot of sugary drinks, these fancy
Right? The
coffee
second I
drinks.
see the straw,
So
I'm like,
thank you,
I'm done.
actually, a blessing in disguise.
I'll die of dehydration.
Forget it. Just forget it. And I go up to employees when they have like a regular straw, and I thank you so much. I shake their hand. I'm like, I really appreciate a plastic straw. You don't know how much this means to me. And they look at me like,
Listen,
what's wrong with this?
yeah, it sucks. I'm not for plastic straws. I've seen what they do to turtles, but I'm sure we've got bigger fish to fry.
I know. So here we go. We're going to talk a little bit about Lebanon. Actually, I think this is Democrats here. Just a reminder that when Democrats had the White House, they helped start and continue a bloody genocide for 15 months in which 70% of Gaza was flattened. And the chosen nominee, Kamala Harris, vowed to keep sending arms to Israel, the weapons they were using to perpetrate these crimes. And then here's an article. Harris doesn't support arms embargo on Israel, a top advisor says. Her national security advisor offered one of her first firm policy decisions. This is her first firm policy decision. She was basically an empty suit until it came to Israel on the Gaza war, a day after she had 2 exchanges with Palestinians. So she spoke to Palestinians, heard their concerns, and then said, I'm going to go the opposite direction.
If you hear their concerns for optics, then what'd she do wrong? She's like, I heard your concerns, and I will continue to disregard them. Perfect Democrat. This is the savior. You want to play it first?
Here, but
said his forces are not leaving.
Hey, here's another beauty. What's this one?
Well,
here's a real beauty.
earlier
Go ahead.
today, the Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu said his forces are not leaving Lebanon. That is a sticking point.
Who did he tell that to you?
He said it publicly in Israel.
Well, we're going to take a look at it.
Well, what would you do to make sure that he doesn't?
Well, I'm not going to
sabotage
tell
the
you what I'm going to do, but it gets solved. I'm a problem solver. I get problem solved real fast, including with
Yeah, all the problems solved. Trump solve all the
Yeah.
problems, all of them. They call me
I'm
the
the
problem solver, greatest ever.
I'm the cause
There
of
you
and
go.
solution to all the problems.
Be able to control Israel from attacking Lebanon.
Yeah, I will be. I mean,
How?
I wonder. They have a lot of respect for me, and they do as I say.
Are you going to be able?
Clearly.
We've seen that.
Yeah.
I think it's proven now
Who's
at
still
this point.
arguing? Glenn Greenwald, the
Okay.
Trump agreement with Iran requires Israel to stop attacking Lebanon. Trump yesterday again said he will force Israel to stop. But Israel has repeatedly bombed Lebanon in the past 24 hours. This is when we'll see if this is all theater or if Trump means anything he says. That's Glenn Greenwald on that Clash Report clip.
And then Sulaiman Ahmed. Let's watch the clip first. I like it when they have shorter clips so we don't have to figure out where
It's
to
not
start.
like them. And I'll tell you what, Israel's fighting Hezbollah too long, and too many people are being killed. And you don't have to knock down an apartment house every time you're looking for somebody, because there are a lot of people in those apartment houses, and they're not all Hezbollah, that I can tell you.
So, you listen to this and you think, does he get it? But I don't think
I
he
think
does.
it's worse,
Still.
Ahmed. I think he gets it. I just don't think he cares. I think he knows full well what they're doing in
president gets-
Lebanon. And we're going to get into some of Israel's policies in Lebanon, including blatant calls for ethnic cleansing. But it's just irrelevant.
And frustrated sometimes is that we seem to be right on the cusp of a major breakthrough in the agreement,
دخيل
and then all of a
هالكسب
sudden
تبعكم.
there's a major explosion that goes off
We're
a
almost
civilian
there.
population center in Beirut, and a lot of people who have nothing to do with Hezbollah lose their lives. That's not acceptable. That's the sort of thing that we've asked for closer coordination so that we ensure it doesn't happen. And our message to the Israelis, just as our message to everybody else, is fundamentally, we want this peace process to be good for you. We do not want Hezbollah attacking.
But see, JD, this is where you've lost Israel. You use the word peace and good for them.
Like, peace,
This
no
doesn't
good
make
for
sense
us.
for them.
Right?
How could they stop listening after you say peace?
What
They're just
this
like,
mean,
you lost
foreign
us.
word?
You said peace. I don't know anything that happened.
Not in our vocabulary.
Peace of Lebanon? Is that what you
The
said?
only piece we recognize, give me a piece of that land. Megatron, Vice
Yeah.
President J.D. Vance attacks Israel for slaughtering. I'm sorry, these come on, that's not even close to an attack. And using the word slaughtering civilians in Lebanon. Again, we'll go back to that post that we discussed. If America actually did want to stop Israel from doing what it's doing in Lebanon, they could just withhold one shipment, one check, I heard recently, I wish I could credit this to somebody, but they were discussing JD Vance and this whole, they're fuming, and it was like Trump angrily signs a check to Israel, or signs it while fuming.
Yeah.
Nothing is coming out of this, guys. Nothing. Not where it matters, right? Not to the people that are being bombarded and displaced and ethnically cleansed.
Vance sent a warning to the Jews. He said, watch out. Trump's your daddy, too. Vance sent
a warning to who? A warning to what?
Vance sent a warning to the Jews, not Israelis, Jews. That's what Fox host Jesse Waters said. Where is Greenblatt, the ADL, all the people who normally obsess over anti-Semitic placards from pro-Palestine college students?
No,
Is this
it's not
much
much worse because Mehdi, bro, this is the narrative. If you threaten Israel, you threaten the Jews everywhere, right? So when Fox News does it, they're doing the conflation to get the point across. When we do it, we're doing the conflation to do the anti-Semitism logic. The Drop Site News is reporting The June 18 UN Security Council briefing on Gaza was requested by all 10 non-permanent members of the Council and supported by 4 of its 5 permanent members. The United States was the only member that did not back the request. The session included briefings from UN Humanitarian Chief Tom Fletcher and Oxfam's Bushra Khalidi, who warned that the Gaza ceasefire was failing and that Palestinians were being denied the conditions necessary to survive. Country after country, alongside the UN and Oxfam, warned that Israel is deliberately dismantling the conditions needed for life in Gaza. They described severe restrictions on humanitarian aid, criticized efforts to condition reconstruction. We're sharing key moments. We're not going to watch the video, but the point that you wanted to bring up here, Ahmed, is in the first paragraph. Who blocked this?
I mean, it's clear. They keep talking about these rifts and tensions and tough phone calls, but materially, nothing is changing. And here they are again. If they wanted to just send a message, what is this really? This is just a Security Council briefing on Gaza was requested by all 10. It's not even anything material change to Israel. We're just talking about a briefing, and the US still shot that down for Israel. So until I see any material
100%.
change, don't talk to me about it. And then here again, Netanyahu. You know what? This works out. Apologies for our viewers for showing that video when there was no need.
The directive from me and the Minister of Defense of the IOF is clear and has not changed, okay? Our forces in southern Lebanon have full freedom of action to thwart any direct or emerging threat against them or against the residents of the north. The IOF faces no restrictions in this regard. I stand behind them. The entire nation stands behind them. I remain firm in my position. I'm sorry, were there restrictions to begin with?
But there are reports now that I was reading today some reports from some of the generals on the ground. I believe, or one of some official from Israel. It's kind of annoying to read them, but basically they're saying that actually they are being held back and they've taken more defensive positions and they are to some extent holding back or withdrawing. So what Netanyahu's saying to the public is very different than what is happening on the ground.
Let's see how it happens. Yeah.
I don't know if that's true or not. I don't know if that's a psyop
I mean, we'll
or mind
see when
game.
we see, right? We'll see. It'll show.
Today, Israel's defense minister announced Israel will not withdraw from land it sees in Lebanon, Syria, or Gaza. Is anyone surprised? Lebanon alone. This is important. Israel now occupies 770 square miles of territory, nearly 1/5 of the country. They push the border 6 miles north and keep going. There is a law against this one, a clear one. UN Security Council Resolution 242 states explicitly that territory cannot be acquired by force. It was passed unanimously in 1967 because of who?
Of Israel
Papua New
that
Guinea.
had seized land in the West Bank, Gaza, the Sinai, and the Golan Heights in the Six-Day War.
So again, we see this is, and then what are they doing in Lebanon right now in the south? This week, I'm reporting from South Lebanon, where I've surveyed the villages of Zibqin, Abba, Egyptiet, Haruf, Miye, Marwaniye, Dweir, and the city south of Nabati. And you could see just that total utter chaos and destruction that they've caused here. Again, here, you could see just hours after the U.S.-Iran peace agreement, the genocidal army of Israel blew up the deal by bombing southern Lebanon more than 220 times.
Murdering more than 83 Lebanese people. Like, there's no surprise here because this is any time that there is a ceasefire announced, this is their MO, right? Anytime there's a ceasefire, if they catch a whiff of it, they're like, negotiations? Bomb full force.
Like allergic reaction happens.
Yeah,
They have to go to the
wallah,
hospital.
and then
They
they
can't
get comfort
breathe.
by
They start
slamming
puffing up.
if there is a red missile launch button. That's how they get their comfort. Israeli forces continue the controlled detonation of homes in the southern Lebanese towns of Hadatha, Bint Jbeil district, and Kfar Tibnet in the Nabatiya.
Nabatiye. But the important note here why I saved this is just, I mean, we know, but controlled detonation. They are
Yeah, and you'll see
systematically
it in
wiping out
the
homes and
upcoming tweet.
buildings.
Ynet just
So it's
reported that this is part of the directive in Lebanon, which we knew. We did not need Ynet to report on this again.
and here again, let's listen to this. Actually,
Across
it's
whole
pretty
swathes
long.
of
Let's see if he
agricultural
makes
land,
his point.
prompting UN intervention and raising fears of chemical contamination in a landscape already scarred by war.
Initial laboratory analysis has now identified the substance as a herbicide banned in Lebanon and several other countries, one the World Health Organization says increases cancer risk.
Laboratory analysis results showed that the substance sprayed is the herbicide glyphosate, which could damage vegetation cover with direct repercussions on agricultural production, soil fertility, and ecological.
Just another one of their tactics.
Oh.
Israel is dropping toxic chemicals on farmland in southern Lebanon. We're talking about catastrophic levels of glyphosate, a chemical linked to cancer, 11,000 times above safe levels. This is a deliberate war crime aimed at making life impossible and forcing people out of their land. These are very fertile agricultural lands in southern Lebanon.
Yeah. And, again, you see the controlled demolition of homes. And again, this is very specific, deliberate about targeting children. So Muhammad Safa, when I was 6 years old, Israel dropped bombs disguised as toys on us in Lebanon. New reports reveal that Israel left behind bombs disguised as toys in Gaza. Today, a cluster bomb shaped like a small football found in South Lebanon. But keep talking about
This is
Israel not
Mohammed
targeting
Safa,
children.
the ex-UN representative who left over the genocide. We've got Abir here. They're removing the footage, but it's already been archived. Demons. This is a tweet from the New York Times. Israel is using bombs that appear to be toys in both Gaza and Lebanon. And if you scroll down, Ahmed, you can see this video is no longer available, destroying the evidence as is common practice. They planted booby traps inside stuffed animals in Gaza too. I love that. Sorry, scroll up. The only thing that I can ever love about this is scroll up just a teeny bit. Look at this white boy go. Okay? Like, I love that whenever I see reporting on the war crimes and what Israel is doing, and it's not a brown person, because it's to me, it's evidence of how mainstream this narrative has become, right?
That's it.
Yeah.
There's no
And
coming back from this for
each and every
Israel.
single time is just, it's confirmation of that for me. And it feels good. And I'm going to take it because there isn't a lot that feels good about any of this.
So Hezbollah from Mark Levin.
I know.
We featured him
What
too
the
much
heck,
on
man?
this show,
This
but
was Mark Levin heavy. I don't want all this.
it's just the
Lydia.
worst. He represents a lot of people that made this argument. I just didn't want to include so much when it came to this story from different people, but basically everybody's argument is the same when it comes to the Israel-only crowd. Hezbollah launched an attack tonight in which 4 Israeli soldiers were essentially incinerated. Have you tried crying about it, Mark Levin? I assume Israel will hit back very hard. No MOU or final agreement will change who these terrorists are. If you were talking about Israel, you're making a lot of sense. But, and then, why
Oh
use
no!
your...
What part of Israel were the Israeli soldiers in when this completely unprovoked attack occurred? Yeah. And then Hala Jabir.
Completely lost his mind.
Sorry.
And she also erased
Yeah, Hala
him
Jabir.
as
What the
well.
hell were Israeli soldiers doing deep inside Lebanese territory? You don't get to invade, occupy, and push forward on someone else's land and then cry victim the moment you meet armed resistance. The audacity, the zayacity of pretending the occupier is the victim is genuinely perverted. They were aggressors on foreign soil. They got hit. End of story. Not when it's Israeli soldiers. Hala, I'm sorry, girl, but if they get a sliver,
They attacked a tank. They attacked a tank. A tank that was invading their country.
irrelevant. They have to cry wolf.
Ryan Grimm. I have never heard. Honest. It's even like it's not even crying wolf. It's the wolf
Yeah,
crying.
pretty much. It's not even cry wolf. It's the bully that maybe, punched too hard and broke a knuckle and was like, oh my God, look what happened.
So Ryan Grimm, I have never heard of a country invading a neighbor and then calling it unfair that their soldiers died in that invasion. I don't think any other country ever even thought to make that complaint. On top of that, Israel now wants to retaliate for its soldiers being killed while invading their neighbor. This is pure madness. Just leave Lebanon. You know what? Just leave
Leave
the
planet
Middle
Earth,
East.
bro.
Leave West.
These people, no matter where they go, they will find a way to spread death and destruction.
U.S. Carve a little spot in the U.S. and move there.
If we end up going to the moon as a species, I believe they should all go up there and then they can fight for dominance amongst themselves and leave the rest of humanity to live somewhat peacefully until Yom Qiyamah.
So we did promise a clip from Hillary, and actually a informative clip. I loathe Hillary. I loathe Biden. I loathe these two individuals. Biden specifically, he creeps me the hell out. He's so creepy. I don't know if you've seen pictures with him around kids. It
You've
just makes me
mentioned
feel
that.
sick in my stomach. And Hillary, just the embodiment of what the U.S. is. One of the reasons why Trump came into power in the first place, because she was just an empty suit, just like Kamala. And so I'm not showing this out of any for her, but I think it's maybe a little bit
theme
insightful.
by Netanyahu and his then government, the then defense minister, Ehud Barak, the former prime minister. It was relentless. It was a constant push. Now, I remember.
What would he say to you?
What?
What would he say to you?
He would basically say, you need to support us in attacking Iran. And back then, this was, 2009 to the end of 2012, we had more capacity than Israel did on several fronts to do that. And so there was a constant argument that we would have. And I remember one day I was on the phone for hours with Ehud, with Bibi, with others, and they would say things like, our planes are on the tarmac. And I'd say, well, good luck. I mean, great. Why are you doing this?
Where else would planes be other
Yes,
than in the air?
but on the tarmac, ready to.
So you see, maybe this goes to bolster your point about Israel control over the U.S. So I don't know.
No. My point was never control over the
I don't know how to take.
U.S. My point is that it is bilateral. It is mutually beneficial. I've mentioned this before. You remember like high school biology when you go into the different types of like relationships between organisms, and you've got like the parasitic one that is how I view the colonizer on the colonized, and then you have the symbiotic relationship, which is these two evil entities. They met and they converged perfectly in their parasitic endeavors on the rest of the world. This is my stand. Any attempt to shift the blame one way or another is, and there may be points when America is pushing harder and Israel is pushing harder, but attempts to minimize that it is symbiotic, that they are both complicit equally, is a minimization of the accountability, responsibility of both parties, right? It somehow, to me, it diminishes that they're both equally complicit and responsible. Nobody's forcing anybody to do anything, okay? They are both equally in bed together in this.
Have you considered that in this screen frame freeze that she looks like a ghoul, like she's just coming down?
I have considered why the heck is this person still breathing and above ground, in the sense that, girl, you're so damn old and irrelevant, like just go away. You said at the beginning, at the top of this
You're
clip,
on your own on
like,
that one, man. I am not.
You're like, I know we promised our viewers a clip of Hillary Clinton. I'm thinking, I doubt anybody watching this is like, show us more, we want Hillary. I could live the rest of my life in peace without hearing a word out of her mouth.
It's like, bro, if there was ever a time for you not
That
to
would
come
have been
through
the
on
one,
a promise, this was the
There's
one.
the whole الذين إذا وعدوا أوفوا بعهدهم. That was the one that I'd be like, Ya Rab, he's forgiven.
So I know one thing that you've been very concerned about is what is the state, the mentality of these brave diaper forces when they get back from committing defense against the most helpless people in the world? I'm sure
Yeah.
you've been very concerned.
How are they
How are they
coping?
coping? We know they cry about it, but how are they coping? And here we see
here in
International
Israel.
Yoga
Behind
Day.
me, you see dozens of people that are taking part in a yoga practice as part of a nonprofit called Brothers in Yoga. It's an organization started by a wonderful woman named Netta Margalit, who has dedicated all of her time and energy and resources to bringing somatic healing yoga practices to starting with soldiers who've
Yeah.
Israeli soldiers are doing yoga to heal from the trauma of the world reaction to the genocide they committed in Gaza. Literal downward dog. He
I
is
love
good
Max.
stuff. He's a real one.
So let's talk about when you tie your identity to eliminating another people's, that is a choice that people make. It does not have to be that way. It's like saying anybody that drives on the street next to my house hates my guts. It's like, bro, you could just choose not to view it that way because that's not what people think. But unfortunately, when it comes to Zionists and their sick mentality, this is how they view things. And one of the things that they are having a cry session over is the Nakba
Yeah.
exhibit.
So before we get into it, I'm just going to shout out this book real quick. I read this out loud to my kiddos. It's Voices of the Nakba. It's edited by Diana Allen and it's translated by Huda Adra and Rhea Badran. It is literally what the title says. If you've ever wondered what did the Nakba look like through the eyes of the people that actually lived it, this is a series of oral histories from first-generation Palestinian refugees, people who experienced it firsthand. What makes it so important and so different is that it is just that. It is the stories of Palestinians who survived the Nakba in their own words. It's an interview and it just goes through like for instance, this is Hassan al-Husseini, born in 1925 in Al-Quds, Palestine. And this interview was conducted in 2003 in Beirut. And it just goes through their life before the Nakba, because remember, they were on that land, and then the process of being dispossessed of their land, their homes, being ethnically expelled and displaced off of their land. You hear about Palestine before Zionism, which I think is one of the most, it's a beautiful part of this book because these stories they're not told, Ahmed. Everybody, and we'll get into a little bit after we look at the coverage right now, the Zio freak out over the Nakba exhibit that's coming to Winnipeg in the weekend. The discussions about Palestine become political. And it becomes about a competing historical narrative. And it becomes about, whose story is more important and what are the political ramifications and how are different people in power reacting. And the actual stories themselves they're sidelined when you're talking about the ethnic cleansing of 750 million people. So this book does an amazing job of centering that.
750,000.
Sorry,
750,000
people. This does an amazing job of recentering those conversations.
And I haven't looked into this specifically in this way, but I would say, I would venture to make this hypothesis that, especially in pre-modern times, this multicultural world that we live in was not so in this way. Yet, pre-Israel Palestine was probably one of the few places in the world where there was Christianity, Islam, and Judaism, three religions that coexisted there peacefully, where you were literally neighbors with a Jew, a Muslim, a Christian, and they lived peacefully. And that was probably not, I'm sure we know that there were Jews living in Muslim lands in the Ottoman Empire. Again, I'm just venturing a guess here, but I would say they had their own communities in different lands. Christians would have their own communities. Muslims would have their own communities. This is how I see it, and we could look into this, but Palestine was one
I
of the
will say that some of
together.
the Mizrahi Jews who, and we'll get into this a little bit, if not this episode, another episode about this whole myth that there was this population exchange, like you just picked up 750,000 Palestinians and removed them and then brought in 150,000, that somehow they were being simultaneously expelled. But if you listen to some of the Mizrahi Jews' stories and they describe, life as Jews in Iraq and in Maghreb, bro, they had a much better life. Their parents talk about what life was like before when they were living as Arab Jews in Arab country and what it felt like to be imported into Israel to solve a demographic problem. So I'm not 100% sure. I'm not going to I don't want to overgeneralize and say that it was bad everywhere else or if it was good only here. But in general, people were doing okay, I think, when they were in a country that they belonged to, right? That they were born into, that they lived side by side their whole life for generations before Israel came and upended the demographics in order to solve their issue.
And here we go.
Yeah, so Abir, Jewish groups, including the Center for Israel and Jewish Affairs, B'nai B'rith, Canada, and Jewish Heritage Center of Western Canada have raised concern. Their concern level is raising that the exhibit could fuel anti-Semitism by not providing more historical context. Before we get into the coverage, if our viewers are unfamiliar or if we have people from around the world, the exhibit is called Palestine Uprooted, the Nakba Past and Present, and it is a series of art, oral stories, object that is taking place at the Canadian Museum of Human Rights in Winnipeg, Manitoba. And this specific museum, ironically enough, was founded by a Zionist, Israel aspirant. Anywho, they have an entire wing to the Holocaust. They have the Holodomor. They've got the Japanese internment camps in Canada, the indigenous genocide here. And so it kind of makes sense that a human rights museum might just finally have an exhibit about the Nakba. And the Zionists are losing their ever-loving minds. And the framing in the media is just, like I was saying when I was discussing this book, it is the equivalent to Germans complaining the Holocaust Museum fuels anti-German hate. We're able to separate Nazis from Germans. We are just as capable of separating Jews from Israel, even if Israel says otherwise. Tying all Jews to Israel is against IRA and is anti-Semitic. I love it. However, I think it goes deeper than that, though, because this idea that they're postulating in the media is that if you're going to talk about the Nakba, you cannot separate it from the Jewish Nakba. I don't know if you've ever heard of a Jewish Nakba, Ahmed. So remember the population exchange that I was telling you about? That if you're going to discuss that, the fighting that ensued while they fought for control over Israel resulted in 750,000 Palestinians leaving by choice mostly. Then you also have to talk about how all the Jews in the Middle East were so horribly mistreated that 850,000 of them, and look at that, we're more than you, sucker, we beat you by 100,000 people, were so mistreated that there was a Jewish Nakba and they all immigrated to Israel. And the director of the museum is literally like, the attempt of this exhibit is not to provide a comprehensive what was happening in 1948, but rather just to focus on the Palestinian stories. They're filing lawsuits against the museum. How do you erase the people? How do you erase their history? How do you erase the war crimes that you committed? By making sure that the Nakba never becomes mainstream, that it never gains recognition, and that the only genocide worth recognizing is the Holocaust.
The Holocaust. But here's the other note which you brought to my attention. Beyond the genocide of the people that is taking place in Palestine, there's also this very deliberate, systematic effort by all pretty much Western countries to also eliminate any memory of Palestine as well. And it's breaking through because of the amount of support and attention that it is getting right now. But you see words like Palestine was not being used in news media, the kufia being outlawed, all these sort of things that are happening. This is part of it
100%.
as well. You cannot separate the two. It's not like they're being honored here, but they're being killed there. It's like a combination. We're going to kill the people there, and then the memory of it is going to be stripped away here.
And Elon Pape, who maybe I'll feature one of his books next time, he has an amazing article on what is Nakba denial, right? And gets into the purpose behind it. I can't recall the name of the essay, but I'll put it over this as a screenshot or something. But it refers to the erasure, minimization, distortion, or justification of the mass displacement and dispossession of Palestinians in 1940. When you have the Canadian press and the CBC saying that the Nakba, Arabic for catastrophe, refers to Palestinians leaving during the fighting over control of what is now Israel. That sentence just checked off erasure, minimization, distortion, and justification all in one, right? And mainstream media is allowing for the opponents, these Zionists who are having hissy fits and temper tantrums and filing lawsuits, to define the Nakba and to define what it means to them as somehow taking precedence over, again, the stories of the Palestinians. None of these articles quote a single Palestinian person or a Palestinian historian. And they lump sum all the Jewish groups, even though we have, so many Jewish organizations that stand with the Palestinians that have raised concerns about what Sija and B'nai B'rith are doing. But they flatten it, right? Palestinian testimony, Palestinian life is controversial, bro. Bringing up the Nakba, it's too much. It's too much.
So I don't really have a good segue for this, mainly because due to the length of this podcast, we're going to have to cut out some stories. So just bear with us and pretend like we have this brilliant segue that we've introduced, but unfortunately a very sad story.
Here's the segue. Empire doesn't care about kids.
You don't say. So, in case anybody hasn't heard, there was a story where when it first came out, it was a mom stealing diapers for her 1-year-old, and the child got shot by the police. But right now, we know that the diapers were paid for. Walmart called the cops on a pack of diapers that were paid for. A mother lost her precious baby. Cohen Wiley lost his entire life over a pack of paid diapers. A cab? I don't know what that means. Defund the police. Fund necessities for children. Create an actual safety team that is trained in de-escalation, can provide resources for necessities and for mental health. These cops need to be charged for murder when they murder. And although, yes, I definitely agree that we need necessities for children and resources for necessities, that wasn't even the problem this time. The problem was not that they stole it.
So a couple of things. Number one, a cab or a cab or whatever, all cops are bastards. It's an acronym. When you're talking about police brutality, violence, whatever the case is. Second point, irrelevant if the diapers were paid for or not paid for. I mean, it's part of the story. It seems to be a developing story, but irrelevant. Thank you. First comment. And even if she had stolen them, it hardly justifies killing a baby or endangering innocent people by shooting at a car in a damn parking lot. What is, so speaking of, because it's always, it triggers the thought in my head, and I'm sure it does yours as well. What did the Khulafa do? The Khalifas, whatever, however you pronounce it, whiteify it. What did they do when there was famine and poverty? Because Islam does have a had, the legal punishment against, theft, and it's always trotted out alongside the other hudud, like somehow it is the only civilization, the only, place that legislates judicial punishment and state punishment against crimes. But nevertheless, what did the Khulafa do when there was famine and poverty? They lifted the had. They did, exactly.
They
Because if you
suspended
are
it.
going to commit theft when you are facing poverty, and I love how the West, you always get those moral conundrum questions. If a person was stealing medication for their, dying mother, should they be forgiven or not? Or if a person, killed somebody to get a loaf of bread, should they be punished or not? Islam answered that how many 1500 years ago? No, they should not be. There should be no punishment when necessity forces you to do things like this. Regardless, in this case, the diapers weren't even stolen. But even if they had been, what kind of society and system have you built that empowers police officers to open fire, resulting in a baby being killed?
And it goes beyond that, by the way, in Islam. So let's say you stole from your employer. The employer would be brought and seen. Do you pay him on time? Do you pay him fairly? Do you pay him there's a system to it where it's not just, oh, you stole and whatever. And even if somebody stole like this in the system, this is a failure of the system. So the system is the one that would be looked at why it's
100%.
producing people that
Right?
are
And
struggling to
down
this
to, do you
point.
remember the story of somebody brought his son before one of the companions and said, my son disobeys me, fix it, being that parents have rights upon their children. And he said, before I speak to your son, did you raise him properly? Did you give him a good, it goes back to what did you do as the parent, the rights and responsibilities. What did you name him?
What
Did
did
you
you
choose a
name
good
him?
spouse? When it became like this, okay, we're going to deal with your son. But before that, have you done what you were meant to do to ensure that justice continues? And this is, it's a beautiful, beautiful system, wallahi. And it's so often demonized by this broken system that results in a 1-year-old being shot at a Walmart parking lot.
And here we have Qasim Rashid, who says police killed a 1-year-old Cohen Wali on the false claim his mother stole diapers. His killer is on paid leave and his ID is hidden. Police killed 7-year-old Ayana Jones as she slept in her living room. Her murderer, Joseph Weekly, walked free. Police killed 11-year-old Tamir Rice as he played in a park. His murderer, Timothy Lohman, walked free. America's carceral system treats black children like chattel because the system isn't broken. It's working exactly as intended. And that's the problem. And in fact, you see here, so in US police shot and killed a 1-year-old black baby opening fire on her family car after the parent, again, didn't even steal it, but this was earlier on. Of diapers from Walmart having no money to pay for it. Okay, again, that's not while the World Cup is being celebrated, the US executes poor black children over some diapers. And subhanAllah, look how cute. Honestly, I feel like it's breaking my heart. Look how cute this baby is. What would somebody do if this is what happened to their child?
What the fuck, cuz?
Yeah.
Heartbreaking. And then what happens after? Take a look. These are the police protecting Walmart. Look at that. They're just created a police wall. Following the police killing of a baby over some diapers, there were protests at the doors of Walmart, and an army of U.S. police gassed the demonstrators with tear gas. The land of the free, where they shoot babies dead because of their poor mother. Again, she didn't even
Irrelevant,
steal them
Ahmed.
this time.
Wallahi,
That's not
irrelevant. If
even.
she had stolen it or if she had not stolen it, the answer to stolen diapers is not open fire. It is not open fire with a damaged car. It is not open fire killing a child. It is not open fire injuring the person. It is a pack of diapers. The response is not open fire, and this is exactly why the system is broken. It is the problem. And then what do? They suppress people who demonstrate against this incomprehensible, inhumane response with more violence. It is, yeah, it is a disturbing, disturbing story.
Just
It is
heartbreaking.
heartbreaking 100%, and it is not the first or the last. Unfortunately, I hate to be grim here, but how many stories, how many names of Black Americans can you list off the top of your head that have been killed? Oftentimes children. And then they sit and they argue the details.
It really bothered, like, this story really bothered me. Just
because it's a
it really got to
baby.
me. This
Because it's
story
a
really
baby.
bothered me. Maybe because maybe a new father and something, I don't know, but you know, just to give people a little bit of some positivity before we end off, just gonna share some. This is North Korea unfurling the Palestine flag at the World
North
Cup.
Korea? I thought South Korea.
South Korea,
Maybe.
South Korea. Did I say North Korea?
Yeah, so this is an image in the stands, and they've got that massive meter-long flag over their heads, and they're displaying it on the screen. South Korean fans unfurled a massive Palestinian flag at the World Cup. Watch the video, magnificent. It gives you goosebumps. The Gaza resistance and thus the Palestinian cause has become the symbol and roadmap of humanity's resistance to imperialism and the construction of a humane world of humanity's revival. The Gaza resistance has saved humanity's dignity. It has reminded humanity of two consciences, that Gaza is humanity's conscience, that each of the 8 billion people has a conscience. Not each, the majority of it, the 99.9%.
Close.
Yes.
But you know, I love it. They tried to erase Gaza and they
Yeah,
made the
it is
entire
the
world
litmus test
Palestine.
of our time.
Again, from the World
The
Cup.
Moroccan star Nasser Mazraoui, I may decide to retire from football after the World Cup. I have a feeling that I've wasted 28 years of my life without benefit. I only started reading the Quran 6 months ago during my injury period, and I realized that I needed to draw closer to God. Life is so very short. I remember the first match I played when I was 16 years old, and now I'm 28 years old. I want to memorize the Quran and become an imam for a mosque one day. MashaAllah, one of the players I love most in football. May Allah keep you steadfast, O Hajj Nasser.
Alhamdulillah. Now, I don't know if you've heard this story before, but months ago, the Spanish crowd chanting in the stadium, whoever doesn't jump is a Muslim. Last match, Lamine played with them before the injury. Lamine was upset about this and spoke out about it, saying, I'm a Muslim, praise be to God, and as a Muslim, I consider these chants unacceptable. Today, the moment he scored a goal, he prostrated before the Spanish crowd to respond to them. Lamine didn't forget what happened
I don't
from the
remember
Spaniards.
this.
Now, Spain has been a good supporter of Palestine in general. You know, maybe that was just, I'll give him the benefit of the doubt, although it is weird that that happened. But here you see Lamine Yamal making sajda after scoring the goal. And that's my printer, if that came through. For some reason, decided to wake up just randomly out of nowhere. Technology.
Khalidou Koulibaly
Right.
from the Senegalese team was told by an American journalist, I recommend you go to the nightclub called Paradise. All the players enjoy the atmosphere there. His response, since I arrived here, I've only left my house for training sessions and the mosque. We are Muslims. This kind of thing is not part of our religion and our culture. Respect. We've seen the Senegalese representing. MashaAllah.
And one of the things, there's a masjid here close by that used to be a bar. And they bought it. They bought the building. They did the whole thing, turned it into a masjid. And the police actually came to them and they thanked them. And they said, we used to get calls every night about fights, about sound, about this and that. And ever since you guys took over, now you've been just spreading positivity in the neighborhood, and
That's
only
only
good things come
because
out of
Amy
here.
Meck hasn't
And
heard
this is
about
supposed
this
to be
yet. Somebody needs to alert her. I haven't seen her tweet about a bar turned into a masjid, but she's having a full freak out about everything else that's been turned into a masjid.
And again, here we see the Brazilian team with the Palestine flag. SubhanAllah, it's just, this is part of it now. This is part of life. Anybody that wants to signal to the world that we're on the right side of history,
Yeah.
this is the symbol of it. And this one I thought was really good. They create a human Palestine flag. And this is the Mexico is winning the hearts of 2026 World Cup, and Mexico City supporters formed
Yeah,
a
and look
giant
at the
human
letters they're
Palestine
holding
flag.
up. BDS. And the Handala. I love it.
And the last one, this does have to do
Oh,
with the
wait.
World Cup, but it's pretty big
Bro,
news
you
because I'm
gotta
a
show
big fan of
Egypt.
this actor.
Masr الدنيا. If we've got any, my sister-in-law and all
let
the
me
other
go to
Egyptians
Egypt.
out there, they're like, excuse me, did you not see the show we put on for Palestine?
Let me take a look here. Wait. When is Egypt? Oh, here we go. Okay. All right, let's show the
Egyptians.
Egypt celebration.
I've never heard this chant, but it's such a vibe. شمال يمين بنحبك يا فلسطين. Go right, go left. We love you, oh Palestine. We'll take it, Egypt. We'll take it.
Hey, man, go for it. And yeah, the last story we have here, just because I'm a big fan of this actor, I don't even want to share, to be honest, the negative part of this tweet, but it's how I saved it, so bear with me. But we have Giancarlo Esposito converted to Islam, the whole point of freedom of religion.
What
Anyway,
does
who cares about
what
all that
does
negativity?
Ma
Basically,
Narabi say?
so this guy, he was trying to make it seem like because he's in Saudi Arabia, that working on a film funded by Saudi government, that he converted. I guess that's his point. And Mu'ayin Rabbani says the whole point of freedom of religion is that individuals should be free to believe what they will, change their beliefs, or have no belief at all. Arab Zionists spend 28 hours a day working themselves into a frenzy about limitations on freedom of religion in Muslim states. But when someone converts to Islam, they spend 38 hours a day working
Yeah.
themselves into an
I
even
love it.
bigger frenzy.
This is kind of like that, what you pointed out last time about let's criticize Saudi. Let's whataboutism everything and talk about the human rights violations in Saudi Arabia and cast shade wherever we can. I personally am happy. In Breaking Bad, this guy was stone cold, okay?
Welcome to our brothers and sisters in Islam. You know, the beautiful thing about him right now is it's as if he was just born. All his sins have been wiped. He's a newborn baby. He just started his life. He's fresh and pure. Congratulations and welcome.
subhanallah.
And obviously, we like to believe, and our statements are that he's actually reverting to Islam because we are all born on Islam, and he's come back to believing in one God. So yeah, just a beautiful time. I think it's always interesting. I love hearing revert
You know what I
stories
find
in
so
general.
fascinating,
Maybe more
Ahmed, and when we talk about Islamophobia, because I know we're kind of working on a little bit more of a deep dive into Islamophobia. One of the most fascinating things to me is anytime you see a increase in aggression, coordinated Islamophobic attempts, violence against Muslims, there is a corresponding deluge of people that refind, that, like you said, their fitrah and come back to Islam. And this isn't about, before anybody takes this and twists it, it's not about, wallah, let's convert everybody and bring Sharia law everywhere. But it's more the hadith, that portrays this to me the most clearly was when Sayyidina Muhammad ﷺ was, I believe he witnessed or he was there when there was a funeral for a non-believer and he started to cry. And the companions asked, why are you crying? It's a kafir. I don't remember his religious denomination, if it was Jew or if it was Christian or whatever the case is. And he said, isn't this a soul? And a soul that obviously, like every other religion and every religious denomination, we believe that Islam is a true religion, and anybody that comes back to it is, at the end of the day, inshallah, being saved, right? And being brought back into the fold of what is haqq and what is true and what is principle. But I always find that it's fascinating to me, and there must be some like divine connection here between increased coordinated attacks and people finding their way back. because it happened post 9/11 and it happened post October 7th.
That's true. That's true. Islam, I think it has this quality that if you instigate it, it strengthens. And if you leave it, more people join. And any way you look at it, إذا جاء الحق زهق الباطل. You know, when truth comes, when truth
No.
arrives, falsehood disappears, because by its very nature, falsehood is
Absolutely.
disappearing.
And I think go around and tell people right now that just witnessed that child being shot, that there is a system out there in which, had that mother stolen those diapers, she would have been forgiven. And whoever it was that was responsible for the welfare of the people in that city would have been called to account for why there was a woman who was struggling to get such a basic necessity. Tell people that system exists and tell me that they would not be moved to hear about it.
I mean, I'm with you.
Don't tell them it's Islam. Tell them there is a
I mean,
system
I'm with
out
you
there.
100%.
Bro,
But it wasn't even
irrelevant.
stolen.
Irrelevant.
This one was. I know, I understand, but because we're quoting
Yeah.
this specific.
Yeah.
I'm with
Yeah,
you.
100%. Or tell them if it wasn't stolen, tell them that even if it was stolen, this would not be the had. But regardless, going back to like, how can capitalism and democracy in the West, can they even fathom a system like that? I think their minds would like discombobulate, you know? They cannot, like, what? No law? I responsible? مساكين بفوتوا ب600 حيط.
Just look at the difference in coverage between when the health insurance guy was killed
Yeah.
and how the entire system was up in frenzy, and now with this baby.
Yeah.
Right? And the same thing, like you said, with the Walgreens, how an employee is covered or theft is covered compared to when Walgreens does it. It's just a system built for a
100%.
very specific purpose. But that is a episode. Thank you so much for joining us. Walaa. It is difficult times, but it makes it a little bit easier to be able to talk it out with you and to go through some of these stories a little bit more. And there's still a lot more to get to. We're just gonna have to copy
Yeah,
and
coming
paste
up
into the
next
next
week.
episode.
Keir
But
Starmer,
thank you all for
South
joining us.
America. The list is long, but inshallah, we will get to it. Thanks again, Ahmed. I really appreciate this. And we'll see you next week. Bye.